Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about why sexual education should be taught in high schools across the country. First off, sexual education is necessary. It's just as necessary as math or history or science. It's very educational and everyone needs to know about it because that is the way of life. Teachers, parents, and students all know that it's going to happen at some point. So if they're being informed early, that's the best way for everyone. When discussing sexual education, abstinence only is the first one to come up. And it doesn't help teenagers that are going to be sexually active before marriage because there are about 50% of the high school students, they will have sex before they are married. Just because you have an umbrella doesn't necessarily mean it's going to rain, and that's a metaphor for having protection. It doesn't mean you have to use it, but it's there if you need it. And the last thing to remember is that the more the kids know, the more likely they are to say no. Sexual education is largely debated across the United States in board meetings and government meetings. And some people believe that abstinence only, meaning no prenatal or premarital sex, is the only reasonable way that sex ed should be taught. From my understanding, the majority of people that think that are very conservative, and to bring politics into this, it's usually Republicans that think that, and religion is a really big part of the debate on sexual education. There is a fine line between being taught about the reasons why you need to be safe, and then there are reasons why your parents need to teach you about your morals and your beliefs and everything. So religion really, it ties into this whole situation, and that's why it's a really huge debate across the country and why people think it should and should not be taught in public schools. American adolescents need comprehensive sex education because American adolescents will have sex. The United States has the highest teen pregnancy rate out of developed countries, and in the U.S., teenagers hold half of the 19 million new cases of sexually transmitted infections and diseases. Even though studies show only represent a fourth of the nation's sexually active people. Girls in high school should not have to worry about raising a child or paying for a child while they're going to school. They should be learning and developing their own mind. There are reasons why public schools should be teaching comprehensive sexual education because the "Just Say No" slogan has been the main focus in the majority of public schools. So there's an extensive difference between teaching students about sex and telling them that sex is not okay. Young high school students should be taught the good and bad aspects of having a sexually active life. Educating students about safe and protected sex should help them prevent about half of the teen pregnancies that this country has witnessed. Comprehensive sexual education is a newly modified informational plan that should be taught to all high schools across the nation starting their freshman year. I believe it should be their freshman year because you're being put in a school with 14, 15, 16, 17, and even 18-year-olds. And when you're in a class that's probably maybe say a Spanish class that a senior's taking and also a freshman, and they get to know each other, then that might be an issue later down the road. So that's why I think it should start their freshman year and right as they get into high school. There are many reasons why the "Just Say No" slogan is genuinely ineffective. During Bush's presidency, social conservatives along with the Bush administration tried forcing public schools across America to teach abstinence-only education. Studies have proven that abstinence-only education does not stop teens from having sex. They're going to. It's just human nature, and everything has been starting earlier and earlier as the time goes on. So girls are wearing makeup in junior high and wearing very revealing clothing in junior high and high school. And early, like probably in the 80s and 90s, that wasn't really a thing. Um, a new study by the Guttmacher Institute confirms what many have feared. The deliberately misinforming teens about sex can have serious consequences, and that comprehensive sex education, in addition to the ability or availability of contraception, is the best way to reduce teen pregnancy rates. And that was what Mrs. Gray said from the Guttmacher Institute. Some people, usually Republicans, like I said earlier, still believe that abstinence-only education should be the only topic taught to teenagers. Teaching abstinence only doesn't help the students that are going to have sex, like I said before. It's really not. There are going to be those kids out there that are going to be sexually active before they graduate from high school. 1 out of every 2 high school students are sexually active. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention statistics in 2005, I know it was 11 years ago, but 47% of the high school students that have had sex at least once, and surprisingly 14% have had 4 or more sexual partners. 63% of sexually active students have used condoms the last time they had sex, but only 18% used birth control pills. 1 out of 4 sexually active high school students had used drugs or alcohol before the time that they had sex. And that was written by Mr. Tokerand. It's obvious that schools, along with the help of parents, should teach teens how to make decisions that positively affect their bodies and their minds. Parents also have a really big role in this, and some parents fail to teach their children about sexual education and including STIs, STDs, how to use the pill, how to use contraception, when it is and is not okay to use certain type of condoms, make sure they're not expired or anything. Some adults in the U.S. believe that schools should not be the ones teaching their teenagers about sex. And I understand where they're coming from, because it has to do with religion and it has to do with their personal morals and their family's beliefs. The schools set a ground basis of the 4 main topics why and how sexual education should be promoted. Then the parents can do the rest of the work and teach the children about the morals, like I said. So comprehensive sexual education focuses on 4 main points that the parents should be content with their teenagers learning about. Sexual development and reproduction is the first main topic that covers the physical and emotional changes associated with puberty and sexual reproduction. Fertilization and contraception, as well as sexually transmitted infections and HIV, are included in the developmental stage of the learning process. Contraception and birth control is the next main point. It describes what contraceptions are and how they work and how people use them and how they decide to which ones to use and if abortion is in the picture. Relationships is the third main topic that is taught in the comprehensive sexual education plan. Educators will provide the student with information on different types of relationships, love and commitment, marriage and partnership, and the law relating to sexual behavior. The fourth main topic covers sexuality. This is the topic that most parents have an issue with. I believe most parents have an issue with that because if public schools are teaching about homosexuality, heterosexuality, and bisexuality, then it might give their child an idea. But I don't believe that learning about it in class is going to open their mind to a different sexual perspective than they already have and were born with and grew up with. I think that that is something that is already in your system before you get to high school and before, that would be a mind changer. So the more kids know, the more likely they are not to participate in sexual activities. So the comprehensive sexual education program encourages abstinence, not ignorance. So it's encouraging kids to stay abstinent, but it's explaining why and how sex can affect you mentally and physically. Thank you.